Getting strong can feel complicated, and it is, sort of. Come with me to the gym where I'm gonna teach you how to get strong as simply as possible. First, we have to start with the brain. The brain is where all the messages to your body originate, and without that, it's like having a car without an ignition, and frankly, you just won't get very far. When we send a signal from the brain to the body, it's like pushing a gas pedal to move the car. Of course, that's an oversimplification, so let's talk about how the body's a little bit different. Now, of course, we can't work like a car and send a message to all of the wheels or all the muscles in our body because we would just end up in spasm. So let's pretend we're in battle. This is the brain and these are muscles, or this is the general and these are the soldiers. Once you want to perform a movement or send into battle, the general has to choose which group of soldiers are we going to send in. If he comes over here and sends in this group and it's the wrong group, they're going to lose the battle. Same thing if we were over here. Now, in the same way, our brain, when we're performing a movement, has to think what muscle or what muscle groups are we going to be able to use to perform that movement. These are called motor units. Now, our brain doesn't have a bicep motor unit and a quad motor unit. All we have is a learning process by which we learn bicep flexion, we learn knee extension, we learn knee flexion, we learn hip extension, and we have to learn all of those individually. The ability for your brain or the general to choose the group of muscles or the group of soldiers going into battle is going to be the most potent way to get strong. Now, we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic is fight, flight, lift, train, all of our life stresses, and parasympathetic is our rest and digest. Let's show this with glasses of water. Here, we've got a glass of hot water and a glass of cold water. If you put these together, well, we don't have hot water and cold water. We have neither hot or cold. Our sympathetic nervous system works the same way, where parasympathetic and sympathetic can't be on at the same time. If you try to use one too much, it's just gonna wear out and you're gonna end up with lukewarm water or just a shitty firing nervous system. When it comes to the nervous system in recovery, there's really only 3 things you need to make sure you're recovering your absolute best. The first one is gonna be sleep. Now to sleep well, we're gonna need a cooler room. We're gonna need to shut all the lights off and make the room as dark as possible. And for the hour before bedtime, there's gonna be no phones.
Well, I wanted to talk to you. The office is a giant mess.
Shh. Managing life stress is number 2. Number 3 is establishing proper nutrition. Making sure you get not only your macros, but your micros with your fruits and vegetables and natural food sources is gonna make sure that you're recovering as well as possible. If you're nailing all those 3 and you're still not recovering properly, well, it's now time to get your blood work done to make sure everything is going okay. Personally, I use Blokes. Off the back of this, you get a consultation with a doctor and they'll prescribe you hormones and peptides based on your blood work to make sure you are healthy, ready to recover, and ready to perform. Now, in terms of training to get strong, of course, you're gonna need more troops. More troops gonna win bigger battles. The most important thing that we need to look at with muscles is the cross-sectional area or the thickness of the muscle. The thicker the muscle, the more motor units you're gonna have to recruit and the more potential you have to increase strength. But it's not as simple as that, because with more muscle comes more responsibility. Now, that responsibility is to fuel and repair those muscles. To repair, you're gonna need your protein. For fuel, there's 2 ways we get our fuel. One is creatine. Supplement your creatine, no questions asked. Number 2 is gonna be your carbohydrates. Creatine provides the energy in the first 5 seconds of movement. Then carbohydrates stored as glycogen in your body is gonna provide the energy for the next 30 to 60 seconds, which is how long a set will normally take in the strength world. Now, let's tie this all together for your training. When it comes to your nerves, there are really 3 things that we can rely on to be able to increase the nerve potential. One is increasing the nerve conduction velocity. That's a positive adaptation to training and is also correlated with lower body fat percentages. Next, increased nerve size is actually another positive adaptation to training that allows the message to be sent faster. Why is this useful? Well, faster messaging means that your brain to your body connects at a faster rate and you'll be able to perform the movements without a lag in time between sending the message and performing the movement. This might be a matter of microseconds, but those are extremely important when it comes to recruiting all of your motor units at the same time for a powerful, coordinated contraction. Now, how do we improve those qualities? Well, we need to train volume and we need to train fast. Now, the volume has to be at a relatively high load for you so that we build strength and we recruit the proper motor units. It's possible at lighter loads to use different motor units that are less able to fatigue, but much less powerful. And that's why we have to lift heavy. Now, that group of motor units will become more and more refined, your movements will become more refined. And if we think of something like a squat, it's gonna take a long time to be able to coordinate calves, hamstrings, glutes, quads, your core muscles, really your whole body to be able to perform the movement well. Contrast that with something as simple as a bicep curl, and you can realize how much practice actually goes into doing these things well internally. When we're structuring a program, the vast majority should be done at heavy load or fast, depending on the time of year. Now, this is only for strength. You'll notice that strength and growing muscle is not necessarily the same thing. Now, I offer resources for both of these. I'll pop those in the link in the description. But there's a muscle building program, there's a powerlifting program, and the real difference between these styles of approaches is that building muscle relies on either high mechanical tension, high muscle stretch, or high intensity. Any combination of those should get you good results, so long as you are training somewhere close to failure and relatively hard. When it comes to building strength, we need to be training the nervous system at very low volumes, very high loads, so that we're able to carry that through to be able to get a new 1 rep max. But remember what I said before, you can't train any individual component too much, or else you train the soldiers or the muscles too hard, and they're just not able to do the work anymore. Conversely, you train the general too hard, or you train heavy strength training too hard, and the messages just won't get sent very well. In this, we've got a chunk of training, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks, and then we're gonna have 1 week of deload. This gives your nervous system time to recover. It also lets your soft tissue catch up, and you're much less susceptible to injury. If we allow all that to happen, you should be able to progress fairly well over the long term. Next, one block into the next block should not be directly related to each other. Now, they can be similar, but you need to have some sort of change to be able to not burn out. That stimulus over time has to go from either strength to power, strength to hypertrophy, power to strength, but the training objective has to change slightly. This is why professional strongmen can only peak once or twice a year. Same thing with powerlifters, because it takes so much time, energy, and attention, and then so much recovery on the back end to be able to get the most from your body. When we look at 1 week of training, we have to think first, how many days a week are you gonna train? When training for strength, this answer might surprise you. The more trained you are and the closer to your genetic potential, the less often you can train. Now, this both refers to chronological age and to training age, where the longer you train, the closer you're gonna get to that potential and the more likely you are to have sympathetic burnout. As a guide, those who are very experienced, close to 1 rep max, maybe a little bit older, 3 times a week is probably the best recommendation for that person. Then, the vast majority of people after that fall into 4 days a week as the optimal training volume. You have some people who can tolerate 5 days a week, and some people like myself who just prefer to come to the gym more often because we love to train, but it might be at the detriment of becoming as strong as you can be. After we have those days, we can start to break it down into what we should actually do. And first, you've got to cover the fundamental movement patterns if you want to be strong and robust. Those are push, pull, carry, overhead press, hinge, and squat. Those 6 movements have to be encompassed in any program looking to make you strong. Personally, I like to break those up in a 4-day split as 1 hinge day, 1 squat day, 1 overhead day, and 1 horizontal day, where the overhead day is pushing and pulling up above the head, and the horizontal day is pushing and pulling straight towards you. After you get your main movements covered, your accessory movements should cover your weaknesses in those areas. The exact set and rep scheme can vary from person to person, and it's too much for the scope of this video, but I've covered that in those PDFs below, along with the education on why it's structured the way that they are. Hopefully you guys pulled something from this video and learned a little bit about how to get strong. Hopefully my analogies landed. Let me know in the comments. If you have nothing else to say, leave a moose dropping. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out the programs or the merchandise, which is linked in the description. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind, and we'll catch you in the next one.